Now, Alex, to start this interview, just to give you an idea, the idea of what came up regarding this interview series was that I wanted to talk to news personalities and kind of learn more about them and their lives, because I feel there's so many news personalities out there that we watch regularly, but we don't know much about them aside from their outlet, their name, and that's about it. We don't really know about them. So I wanted to kind of speak with you because you've lived a pretty interesting life, to say the least.
Thank you.
Because in the research that I've done about you, I've learned a lot about the places that you worked at, and saw a lot of clips of yours in the past from either whether it was on the Wendy Williams
You're
show.
on them because I've deleted, like I've deleted most of the stuff that I've done at different jobs. It is hard.
It's
It's
not
really
easy.
hard to find any video for me, and I will tell you probably know this already. It's hard to find any video for me from the Morning Blend in Tucson. The reality show that's different because CBS, had all of that, but there's not much on the internet either there. HuffPost Live, actually, once HuffPost Live went under, they removed all the video from the web. There's only like a couple of clips that exist from it. And OKTV, that stuff, we weren't really a very internet focused show. We were mainly broadcast on TV. So what is funny, it's hard to, I interrupted, which, I always do.
It's okay.
But what is funny is that it's when you look back at my career and if you try to Google it by complete coincidence, almost none of it is there. Like it's just kind of on my resume and it exists in people's memories maybe, but like there isn't a lot of actual proof that it ever happened.
Well, I was able to find some clips, but before we get to that, what I wanted to start with was your upbringing a little bit. I know that you were born and raised here in Miami, Florida,
Yeah.
and you just made your return recently, like almost about a year ago. But what
Yeah.
was that upbringing like for you here in Miami?
I grew up, first of all, thank you I'm so flattered that you would interview me. I went and I got my hair cut before before we did this. So like, oh my God, Andy's gonna interview me. But so yeah, born, I'm a Miami boy. Like I'm a true Miami boy, raised in West Kendall. I went to Winston Park Elementary and Royal Green also, and McMillan Middle and Sunset High. Um, and it was a lovely upbringing. I will have to say this. I had a very happy childhood, really happy childhood. It probably has informed my personality going forward. I think based on our interactions, I'm kind of typically in a little bit of a peppy mood, but really, really happy. I loved growing up in Miami, although I really wanted to get out of Miami when I had the opportunity because I'm a person who's so interested in so many things that the idea of staying here through everything, not having a little break to go and see other things, was for me kind of daunting. So I did want to leave, but I loved Miami growing up here, and I'm back. And I just bought a house, and that's it. Like I called it a day. I've called it a career. I've called it a life. I feel like I've lived so much that I'm just ready to put my feet down and that's it. Like, I'm so happy to be back. Here we go. I'm already moving on into my own, answer to a question that you didn't ask, but I'm so happy to be back in Miami, and it's such a trip to be on Deco now and everything. So yeah, but very, very happy childhood. I have two sisters. We grew up on Sunset Drive and 127th, around there. For anybody who's from West Kendall, they'll know. Yeah, and just really, really happy kid, honestly.
Now, Alex, from again my research, I know that your first kind of foray into journalism was on the WTKS Sunset Nights News, right?
Yes, Sunset Night News. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh my
And
God.
I saw that one clip that you had, one of the few clips that I could find of your newscast in high school. And it's pretty evident that your interest in journalism started very early in high school. What
Yeah.
kind of got you interested in that, field in general? Because typically people kind of find what they want to do in college, but yours kind of started a little bit earlier than that.
Yeah, and even a little bit earlier, and there's no clip that exists of this, and I wish there were. Actually, there's a tape somewhere. My one of my girlfriends has a tape, but I also anchored the morning announcements at McMillan Middle School. And it's a complete accident that I ended up in this. It is a complete 100% accident that I ended up working in TV. And I am so serious about that because I wasn't one of these kids. I mean, aside from one of my sisters and I would like jump on my parents' bed in front of the mirror and be like, "Welcome to the kids show." But honestly, I feel like I don't know. I think a lot of kids probably did something like that, even if they weren't, going to pursue a career in television later. But I didn't have much interest in it aside from that. I was the kid who was super passionate about climbing trees and driving through neighborhoods and yeah, I don't know. I was interested in other things. I didn't sit in front of the TV a lot. And my best friend, Devin Spencer, he was in middle school. He was in the TV production class, and I had one extra elective. He had to pick. For me, my first elective was always art, as you can see. Art was always my passion. So art was number one, and then I would pick, I don't know, like singing or something after that. And then I had like one more, and he was in TV production. So I joined the class just so I could hang out with him. And then a week later, they had an audition for the anchor spot, and I'm always down for a good time. So I was like, why not? And then I ended up getting it, and it was just so random. Didn't really think about it, and did it, and I had fun with it. And I was terrible, but I thought it was fun. And when I went to high school, I was like, maybe I should do that again. And then I ended up at WTKS Sunset 90s. So yeah, it started there.
That's really interesting, man, because like you can kind of say then it was kind of predestined in some ways for you to kind of end up in this world, kind of.
Well, that's a bigger conversation. You think so?
Yeah.
Oh, are we gonna go there? Because I'm so kind of boring when it comes to those things. To me, everything's an accident. It's kind of just like you do something, it has an equal and opposite, reaction, all that mess. So, but I'll tell you, I'm very happy that my best friend was in that class because I feel like TV for me satisfies everything. It satisfies my passion in travel. It satisfies my passion in learning from people, in conversation, and in exploring areas of the world and people of the world that I normally wouldn't interact with or get involved with. It's given me all kinds of just insane experiences with like celebrities and politicians and like it's just it's just wild. Like it's just totally wild. And I look back and I'm like, man, I'm only 33. People usually are like, oh, I'm so old. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so young. I can't what? Like I feel like I've lived 7 lives already. Every day for me is extra. And I know this is a little bit morbid, and this is probably more than you asked for, but when I picture this, whenever I get on, sounds terrible. I'm so sorry. But whenever I get on a plane, I think, you know what? If this thing goes down today, I will feel so lucky that I got everything that I got. I mean, it's just unbelievable. I mean, it's like a cat. I've got so many. I'm on my like 7th at this point, I guess. I don't know, but
No, but I don't think that's necessarily morbid. I think that's more kind of you've kind of lived your life without regrets. I think that's kind of more the gist of it than anything else.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm very. If anything, I'm motivated. If anything, it's exactly what you said. I'm motivated by never having the feeling that, again, morbid, but that the day that it's all done and you've got that 1 minute before it's over, I'm motivated by not having the feeling that I should have done something or that I missed out on something, which is also kind of funny because I don't have FOMO. That word got really popular. I'm not the type that sits at home and is like, oh, I wish I was at a party with people. That's never me. I'm just always so entertained by my own company and by my family and just by doing nothing, like going to the smoothie shop. I'm just like deliriously happy doing things like that. And whatever I have interest in, I end up doing in one way or another. So yeah, that's
No, again, that's very interesting for me. But now another thing that we really did jump into a very deeper conversation. Uh,
totally. Yeah, this is the way that I am, though. You wouldn't get that from Deco Drive, I don't think, but this is the way that I am.
Well, one thing I did want to know, and you kind of touched on a little bit, was that after high school, you then packed up your bags and you went to Boston for college.
Mhm.
And how important was that? I know you kind of touched on the idea that you like traveling, seeing new places, but how big of a move was it for you at that young of an age to pack up your bags and kind of go off on your own a little bit in Boston?
It was, I mean, there couldn't have been a more exciting thing ever. I had gone on a field trip to Boston with my best friend, Devin,
The
who
same best friend from Cedar
same
Production?
best friend. I mean, he's the most consequential person in my life when you really look at these major events. But I went on a field trip with him in like middle school to Boston, and I'll never forget it. And this is where I think your kind of like fate thing would come in. But I was there. I just looked around and I called my parents, and I was like, "Mom, Dad, I'm gonna live here one day." And it's so funny that I actually ended up living there one day, whatever number of years later, 5 years later. But yeah, it was everything. I mean, I love new experiences. I love meeting new people. I love expanding, my world. And I also love architecture. And I love, for some reason, I just love the Northeast. So Boston was everything to me. And Boston at the time was this metropolis. I mean, I couldn't even believe how big a city it was. I was so overwhelmed by it. Back then, Miami was a different place than it is today. And it's funny because I ended up living in New York later on in my life, and I went back to Boston, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is a little train set town. It's so much smaller a city than I remember." But man, I love Boston so much. I love that city, and it's just my heart. Like New England to me is everything. Again, I'm gonna be corny, but I always say Miami's home. My heart though is in New England, and my soul is in the Southwest. So I'm constantly just divided amongst all of these places. So I need to do some more traveling. COVID's driving me crazy.
Now, jumping back a little bit more towards your career, you started, I believe, after college. Your first job was in Tucson, correct?
Yeah.
Is that safe to say? So you went to Tucson, then
This mug, this mug is my mug from that show, the Tucson Morning Blend. We had a coffee sponsor, Arbuckle's Coffee. So I'm still drinking from the same mug. That was 2010.
10
So my tribute to that job.
years. So you started off in, oh my God, in Tucson. Then from there, you got the dating show, right? That was their second job.
Surreal. Yeah.
And then from there, I believe you went to OK TV, then the
Correct.
Huffington Post.
Correct.
And then from there, you had small stints in Wendy, in the Maury Povich show,
During all of that, that was while I was at those two places. Yeah, I was making all kinds
Your
of
Life of also.
right,
And
all kinds of appearances.
and then from there, you went to Tampa, right? Channel 10 in Tampa, where you
It's a
were also
funny.
part of the Morning Blend.
I was part of. It's called Great Day Live, but basically it was like the Morning Blend again. It was the same show. It was a full circle moment. It was crazy. Yeah, it was crazy.
So then you went to Tampa, and then from there, obviously, Deco Drive. Now,
Right.
there's a lot to unpack there because I'm positive there's a ton of stories that you have of that time.
Oh my
And
God.
we're not going to go year by year, of course not. But one thing that I definitely want to know is how in the world did you go from being in news in Tucson and then jumping into a reality TV show as a host? Because those two things, they're similar but still very different.
Yeah, so Tucson, it was a news station, but the show that I was working for was a morning show. So it was really more like entertainment and all of that. And that show also had, which in media had a sponsored element to it. So it, for the most part, the show was a a morning talk show where we would have all the same segments that you would have on a morning talk show, like making margaritas and, all that, celebrity interviews via satellite and some in person when they would pass through Tucson, which would happen every once in a while. Okay. Um, but it also, like, you could also pay to go on the show. And so you could, there's just so many stories. I don't even know where to start.
Tell me the one that just came to mind, because something
Oh
just
my
came to mind.
God, I can't. I wish I had put a more comfortable setup. I'm so uncomfortable in this chair. I should just be like on a, but the lighting was good here. Okay, well, two stories. Number one, one time it was a vacuum cleaner company that came on, and this is just, this would happen like every day. So, for 2 years. But the vacuum cleaner would come on, the vacuum cleaner company came on, and one time the part of the shtick, the segments were 7 minutes long. Part of the shtick for that segment was that they would like drop some dirt on the floor, and then we would get the vacuum cleaner and, vacuum it up. And I remember, and I had a co-host, but I was always the one who was like more game to make a fool of myself, just kind of, I can laugh at myself very easily. Like, my self-esteem is intact, so I can do stupid things on TV, and it for me, it doesn't mean anything. But I'm at one point, it's just a life moment where here I am with this vacuum cleaner, and I'm vacuuming this like fake, dirt that we have on the floor, and I'm like, ooh, wow, what a difference. And I'm like, what am I doing? This is so crazy. Here I am, an infomercial host practically after going to school for broadcast journalism. And I interned at the Today Show, CNBC, WHDH in Boston, WPBF in West Palm Beach. I won an award in college, and after getting an exclusive interview with the Census Bureau over them not counting same-sex couples, like, I had this background in hard news, at least in school. And, here I am with this thing. And another one is a Snap-on Smile came on. This was a denture company that came on.
Okay.
And we didn't know, my co-host and I didn't know, that there was a reveal at the end of the segment. So this guy's talking, and he's telling us about these Snap-on Smiles. We're looking at graphics that pop up on the screen. Oh, look at the difference. And it's just not a pretty sight. But at the end of the segment, and this is no shade to anyone who has a Snap-on Smile, that's awesome, but we just weren't expecting this. At the end of the segment, he just removes his teeth. And he's just like, wow, look at this. And Anne, my co-host, and I were like, what just happened? So it's a lot of that, but mixed with more of just morning talk show fun stuff. And then that ended up, so then the way that I ended up getting the reality show, which was totally surreal because that was my first job. I was a kid. But I had done an interview with Juliana Rancic, who's one of my idols, on satellite with her and her husband. And the interview was very good. When you have a knockout.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yes.
You know what I'm talking about? Okay. Well,
tell me if I'm right. I could be completely wrong. I don't. What happened was you were interviewing her and her husband, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you asked a very good question if they had picked a favorite child's name. Correct?
Man, how did you find that?
And then she complimented you on asking that great question. And then from there, she says, I think I have like a certain job or something along those lines.
And one thing that has not changed over the past year has been your dream of becoming a family. And I was wondering, do you have names picked out? Do you have a favorite boy name, a favorite girl name? What are they?
You're good. Wow. You ask good questions. We should hire you. What are you doing next week on E! News?
And the interview was about them as a couple and their relationship and all this and that. And I did a really good job. Every once in a while you feel like you do a really good job in an interview. This is just a satellite, this wasn't even in person. It was just a satellite. But they had gotten, CBS or the production company had gotten a hold of my demo reel at one point, and they already had a host. And this is a well-known person who I don't I think maybe it would be tacky for me to name them, but this is a well-known person who was already positioned to get this job. They'd seen my demo reel and they saw the interview with Juliana and Bill Rancic. Some, corny satellite interview in Tucson. And they said, that's the kid.
Today, we are setting out on a journey of the heart. You're about to meet 3 beautiful and interesting women who seem to have it all. While they all lead interesting lives, they're all missing one important thing. April, Rachel, and Libby are about to begin a journey together here in Chicago to find love.
So then they flew me out and I went through the whole process in LA. It was just so surreal. And then I'll never forget being in my apartment complex in Tucson, going to my mailbox and getting a call from my agent. And you could hear it in her voice, like, what is going on? She was like, you got hired. Like, you're getting this gig. Just nuts. And then so from there, I fly to LA. We're doing stuff in LA. We shoot it in Chicago. I'm living at the James Hotel off of Michigan Avenue. Second job for a national primetime reality dating show. Living there for 3.5 months. Car service, champagne. I mean, wow. Chris Harrison, I know what his job is like. I've gotten a glimpse as to what his job is like. Best job in TV, I will tell you that. We went to Hawaii to shoot 1 episode, stayed at the Four Seasons for a week. And it was amazing. And then the show, aired. We ended up airing against the Olympics. The show got canceled, whatever. It was like a big, but it was an amazing experience.
That is, so I have a question then, because like you said, second job in, you're riding a high, you're having all these amazing moments, and then just like that, the show's canceled, and it's almost like you're dropping back down to earth a little bit.
Right.
What was that feeling like? Did you, at the time, were you thinking like, oh, this show's going to take off and I'm going to keep hosting and that's going to be my trajectory? Or the moment that things went bad or things ended, did you kind of wonder like, oh, damn, what's going to happen next?
That's an interesting question. And I don't know if anybody's really asked me that before, but there's a lot there for me, for anybody who's interested. But, it's not what you might think. What you might think is that I had, after getting this, really high profile job, I got some sort of an ego and felt that I should have jobs like this from now on. And, that was not it at all. What actually happened to me was the opposite. I was trained really to be a news reporter that would end up becoming, I guess, a news anchor somewhere at some point. And my dreams, my dream would have been to be, I think probably at the time in college, based on, I'm trying to rewind, because all of those things have changed so much throughout the years and they continue to change. But I guess would have been more to be like a Craig Stevens at Channel 7. But there's a famous line from the movie Broadcast News. For anybody in the business, everybody has seen that movie, but it's like, what do you do when your reality exceeds your dreams? And then the other person in the movie is like, don't say it out loud. Something like, it's just a really funny line. But getting hired for that reality show was a bigger thing than I'd ever imagined for myself. So I didn't know what to do, because what I think what motivates us, what fuels us in life, is that kind of trajectory that we imagine that we're going to be on. Okay, I may host in Tucson, and then after that, hopefully I can get maybe an entertainment reporter job in Atlanta or Austin or something, and then maybe after that I can end up being in Miami, and then and this whole trajectory takes, I don't know, 20 years, in your mind, and it kind of fills in your career for your life. When I hit the reality show, I, in a way, had sort of skipped everything. So I had no idea what to do, and this is the thing that I haven't told many people. I had no motivation anymore. and I was identified by my friends, by my family, by people at school as that kid who was so ambitious, so motivated to do everything. After I got that job and it was done, the bubble popped. You know what I mean? Like the whole build of this career popped because I'd somehow gotten airlifted to the top of the mountain. I saw the top of the mountain. I saw it down. I was like, okay, cool. That was fun. Like, what do I do now? Go and become an architect? I mean, I felt like I finished it. So for me, it was a whole struggle of re-falling in love with TV, I guess, and coming up with a new set of goals outside of the original set of goals that I had. So that took a while. That took years into being into OK TV, you know, into HuffPost. I kept trying to refigure out, okay, what is it that I want? But that happened after that reality show. Wow. I know that's a whole lot, but it's, and I could talk to you about that for hours, but that was an interesting turn of events. And I always felt so lucky that I got that job, and never that I, you know, needed to have more jobs like that, or I never think about if that show had taken off. Never thought in my mind. It was an amazing experience.
That is incredibly interesting, because I think one of the conversations that we've had at press junkets was this idea that, not the idea, the fact that oftentimes in this business, you can have, in the media world, you can have a job today, and then all of a sudden things are moving so fast, all of a sudden the network changes, you know, gears, and they're going in a completely different direction, and you're not a part of those plans, and then, you know, you're left kind of hanging, and then you're wondering about the next job and the next job. And it's so kind of crazy how that world works. But to hear that there was a moment for you where you kind of lost that motivation, how long did it take you from when that show canceled and your endeavors in Huffington and OKTV for you to finally have gotten your goals set and everything in order for your next move?
I think I had entered a different phase of life where it was no longer about a trajectory, and I had to reimagine the whole thing. I had to just throw it all out, because now, so after the reality show, then I hosted a nationally syndicated entertainment news show, and that was out of New York, and that was another, granted, this show was the kind of show that aired at, you know, in many markets aired at sort of weird hours. You know, it's not like the predictable Entertainment Tonight, you know, type show, but it was a national show, and I interviewed easily 5,000 celebrities in that time, and I had, for the most part, the greatest career highs during that OKTV time. But again, I had come up with this reality show. At that point, I felt, okay, what do I do now? That it almost was a year before I got OKTV. I mean, there was a long period of unemployment before OKTV, because in that world, in the hosting world, in the national hosting world, you have to be a hustler. And I'm not really that. Like, I'm a hard worker, but I like to focus on one thing at a time, one job at a time. But when you're in that world, New York, LA, you're on, you know, these kinds of shows, you always have to have, you know, your hand in a few different things. And that for me is very overwhelming. I like to just focus on one thing. But anyway, so I'd finally gotten to this job. You know, I figured, I was thinking, am I supposed to go back to Tucson at this point? I had no clue. So New York happens, get that job, that's great. But I still feel like I'm filling air in life. Like, okay, I'm filling time. I still don't know what I want to do, but this is obviously very good. I was making a lot of money back then. Like, I spent every dollar of it. I have nothing to show for it, but you know, it was New York, and we were working like crazy. I mean, I was working 12-hour days. And this was like sometimes 7 days a week. I had plummeted in weight. I hadn't, you know, it was just, I wasn't eating. It was just like constant hustling, constant working, and constant distracting from answering that question. I was still trying to figure out what the answer to that question was. but I knew that OKTV wasn't sustainable. Like the level of that show, the work ethic and all that required was just too much, and I couldn't fit a personal life in there. I knew I didn't want that. The show was amazing. I had an amazing time there, but it wasn't for me long term. HuffPost Live slowed things down, which for me was good. I started to be able to think about what I wanted again. But still, I knew that that wasn't it. I mean, it was a great job and I loved it. Probably the best fit for me outside of Deco Drive. But yeah, and then I went to Tampa specifically to have the opportunity to think, to breathe, to get out of New York City. And do I want a house? Do I want kids? Do I want a lawn? Do I want to devote my life to work, or do I want work and life to be a balance? I didn't know. And by the end of Tampa, I think I had finally started to get the full perspective. And when Deco Drive came into the picture, I saw one opportunity that could give me everything. Deco Drive is a local show, but it feels like a national show. It's shot like a national show. Rarely is there a local show that has that level of personality and sort of, toes the line the way that we toe the line, the way that a national show can do, but typically local shows are a little too afraid to. The talent level is, Lynn Martinez, Shireen Sandoval, when you look back, Belkis and Louis and just Chris, these are people who could easily be hosting Entertainment Tonight. So you've got that. And I work 8 hours a day, 9 hours a day. I go home and I can have a house now. I can find my partner now, hopefully, and I can have a family. So with Deco, finally, it started to get figured out. I don't want to just do work. I want to have a whole, a complete life. And Deco gives me that. And that's why, that's it. I'm done. Until they fire me, until I do one too many stories where I'm moaning on exercise equipment. I don't know if you saw that story, but until I kind of upset them too much in that department, I'm here. I don't even remember what the original question was, and of course I go on forever. I'm so sorry, but
trust me, I'm letting you go on because you are answering the question. But what I enjoy most is that you are delving in more into kind of the life that a lot of people who watch reporters on TV, they kind of just see, okay, that's the person who's going to give me the news. They get in front of the camera, they say the news, and they leave. But there's such a world behind the camera that nobody really gets to see. And I think you're kind of showing us a little bit of what that world is. And I think that's very interesting. Now, one thing I did want to ask you, because in being so ambitious as you are and being the hard worker that you are, I think it's safe to say that for you to chase after all of these opportunities, all these things that have come your way in your career, there is a part of you that has to kind of be selfish and just be thinking about me. I can't be thinking about, starting a family, kind of setting my roots down in a certain location, because you don't know if the next opportunity might be in another city, completely far away or a different state, and you don't know how your time is going to be divided. So how difficult has it been? And I know you kind of touched on that, but how difficult did it have to be? Did you ever feel like you had to make that sacrifice where you had to put yourself ahead of anything else?
100%. I have a very self-indulgent career. When you look back, it's been a lot about me chasing fun and experiences and having stories to tell when I get older. And, I have I'm a very privileged person. And I like to acknowledge that at every point that I need to acknowledge that. I have a family that has supported me during ups and downs. I went straight from Tucson to the reality show, but it took almost a year. Granted, I had gotten hired for OKTV, earlier than that and everything. But by the time I was on set in New York, that was almost a year after the reality show. And then there was just a slight lag between OKTV and HuffPost from what I remember, but there was also a long lag between HuffPost and Tampa. So I have been privileged in being able to come back home to Miami, and be here and wait it out until the next thing. Granted, a lot of people have, by the ages that I was doing this, a lot of people have a partner, and the partner supports them during that time. I haven't had that, so I've come back to my family, and they've been very, very good to me, and yeah, super supportive. So they have allowed me to be kind of selfish in that respect, but the selfishness for me had an end date. I know myself, my personality very well. I think probably one of the first times that we met, I was already asking what your Myers-Briggs personality type was, because I'm so obsessed with people who I have interest in. I want to know why they're the way that they are. And I also have that same energy toward myself. I want to know why I'm the way that I am. And so I know that in order for me to finally live an unselfish life, and to really be able to give myself to a partner, and more importantly, or differently, but also to give myself to children, I have to get all of that out of my system. And I have a lifetime's worth of energy that I could spend just having a lot of fun on TV. So I know that I had to be an enormously efficient person in getting all that done as fast as I could. And that's really what I did. So my 20s were very self-indulgent, spilled a little bit trying to finish off that full circle moment before I got back to Miami. And now I'm, with my house, I'm setting up the grounds, like with my house, and I have my job that is a very predictable job at a very steady station that I know I don't have to worry about whether they're going to let me go tomorrow. I mean, I feel like hopefully I'm somewhat well liked by viewers and all of that I can finally just kind of put that on autopilot, do that really well, and then spend all the other energy not toward thinking about, okay, what's the next thing? Because that takes a lot of energy for me. Where am I going to go from here? What city am I going to live in? Is this big enough? Should it, no. Spend that on a husband, spend that on children. And then I can be selfless. I can be actually a very selfless person also, but I can definitely be very selfish too.
Now, touching on the Myers-Briggs portion of that, because I'm not gonna let that go, because I remember you mentioned that. God, I don't know if it was. I think it was actually at the end of last year that you brought that up. And I kept telling you, I'm going to do the test. I'm going to do the test. Because it's a long, thing to complete.
Did you do it?
I finally did it, but I'm not going to tell you what it is.
Yeah.
I'm going to test your knowledge on it.
Yeah.
I have my result literally right here. I scrolled up. I had to have it right here. I want you to go ahead and guess. What do you think I got?
Because we've already played this game, but you hadn't done it yet. Okay, first of all, I want to say this. A lot of people who take the test get the wrong result, because when they take it, they don't really answer the questions fully. So I want to make sure that, did you do research into the type to confirm that this was correct?
Yes.
Okay, so you're confident, like this is
I'm
it.
very honest with my answers.
Okay, you're definitely I
think I'm gonna skip over this. I'm gonna.
Nope.
What? No. Okay, hold on. We're gonna skip over that one. Okay. Skipping over the first one. I'm going to skip over the second right now. You're an enigma, because I tried to figure out before and it was really difficult. Usually I'm pretty decent at this, but you're an F.
Okay.
You're a P.
Okay.
Those I knew. You're an S. Okay, so you're an N. I figured there's an argument for you for S and N, but okay, so you're an N.
Yes.
Wait, you're not ENFP.
Yep.
You're ENFP.
I'm ENFP-T.
Are you sure? I'm ENFP.
Positive. I'm positive, yeah.
But did you go through and read INFP also?
No, I did not read INFP.
Okay, well, all right. We're gonna have some further conversation. All have some further conversations on this. But you read ENFP and you clicked with it.
Yeah, yeah. For the most part, it was right, and it was a series of things. It was like you kept telling me to take the exam. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna take it, and I looked how long it was, and I'm like, okay. And then during this whole quarantine, like you go on dating sites and everything, and then one of the things that people tell you to like, hey, no, you should do the Myers-Briggs. And I'm like, fine. If there's
Okay,
ever
people say that, I thought I was the only one, and I feel like such a nerd when I say it. People are like, I took everyone. This is everyone's answer. There's two things. Either the person has never heard of it, or the person says, "Oh yeah, I did it back in college, but I forgot my result." Those are the two answers that I always get. But now you know the result to give yourself.
Yeah, no, I think now that's taken over for horoscopes. I think horoscopes are a thing of the past. Now I think everything's Myers-Briggs.
Yeah, I love Myers-Briggs. Everybody who knows me will roll their eyes so hard because I do bring it up a lot, but I bring it up in environments where I do feel like I'm gonna know this person for an extended period of time, and it's a person who I find interesting, and I want to put the effort into being able to know them better so that I can have a better, well, it works in interviewing perfectly because I think about people and personality types. So I'll perceive, okay, well, they will react better if I approach it this way. And I'm a little bit malleable in that respect. Like I have a very, I think, strong sense of self, but I also can adjust to have a better interaction with whoever it is so that I don't have unnecessary conflict.
Okay. I mean, I'm still very new to it because I don't know what signs are even. Is there such a thing as compatible Myers-Briggs thing?
Yeah. So if you're an ENFP, okay. So here we go. So if you're an ENFP, which I have some severe doubt on, I think you might be INFP. But if you're an ENFP, your two best matches are INTJ and INFJ. INTJ is a little more sparky. Not to get a little R-rated here, but there's more spark in that dynamic. INFJ for you, and I'm talking for you, INFJ is more of like a more platonic, more of a kind of soulmate match. Both of them, though, people have called the best matches for ENFP. INFP, if you're INFP, your best match is ENFJ, and I don't remember the second one.
This is, I swear, I'm going to cut this portion of the interview out and I'm going to write that down. I'm like, all right, let's see how accurate this all is. Now, another thing that I have to ask you, and I feel I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you this, because I think this is an important question, and I think a lot of people want to know this about you in particular. Why do you have such a fascination and love for Nicki Minaj?
Ay.
Okay, everybody, I'm totally shook right now. So Kathy, my lovely producer, she gave me a office warming gift. I just can't right now. Anybody who knows me knows that. Look at that. Wait, no, the lighting is bad. Look at this. Oh my, Nicki Minaj Candela. I can't. This is the best gift I'm gonna light this thing and this is my favorite, like I told you, it's my favorite outfit that she's ever worn. This is my favorite Nicki Minaj look.
That's a loaded question there. I love her for many reasons. She's not a perfect person. I don't think she can be problematic. I get that, but one thing that I love about her is that she came in to this rap game from day one. And I remember back in the day, before I really had any interest in her, to be honest, my obsession with her started much later in her career. Really, when people started to start firing shots at her and her career was really getting tested, that's when I started taking interest. Same with Britney Spears. When the Britney Spears thing started to look like something was about to happen there, that's when I took a closer look, and then I started to really get into her. But with Nicki Minaj, she came in and she wanted to be number one from day one, and she did become number one from day one. And I remember she said, she's like, I don't want to be, ironically, she calls herself the queen, but she's like, I don't want to be the queen of rap. She's referred to herself as king many times. She refuses to be put into this like female, like you're a female rapper. She's just a rapper. She plays on it a little bit, but she also doesn't. I appreciate that about her. She's also very skilled. She's got great verses. I'm not necessarily thinking that she's the best rapper, period. But as far as rap entertainer, for me, she's my favorite. I love Azealia Banks as well. People don't know about this as much because people don't really talk about her, and Azealia Banks comes with a whole lot of opinions. So, but her music, I'm such an enormous fan of her talent as an artist. So it's really between Nicki Minaj and Azealia Banks. But for the rap nerds out there, when Remy Ma dropped Sheether, which was her 7-minute diss track on Nicki Minaj, my world just ended, and I couldn't think of anything else for a week or for weeks. And that's really when the obsession began, because it was like, how does Nicki top this? Because that Sheether song was unbelievable. I mean, easily the best rap I've ever heard in my life. So, yeah.
Wait, so now hold on. I just thought in general you were just a big fan of Nicki Minaj, but you kind of dropped a lot of knowledge on me on this one artist that I did not expect. So I need to know what music do you listen to? Is it a lot of rap, or is it just in general? Because now you got me thinking like you're in the car and you're just blasting different rap songs, and I would have never pictured that.
Social media and things that I post, you might think that, yeah, I'm just kind of like, and obviously I cover entertainment, so you'd think it would be just like top 40, but really I grew up on classic rock, folk music, singer-songwriter, classical, and your pop music and all of that. But like when I was in middle school, I've mentioned this on TV maybe one or two times, but I was a gothic rocker in middle school. And I would go to does anybody remember 94.9 Zeta, the old rock station? I would go to Halloweeny Roast. I would go to all of the big rock shows. I would crowd surf. I would mosh pit. I would do all of that. And I wore the big Jinko jeans. I had the chains. I mean, you would never even guess. It's the most unpredictable thing about me, but my whole base in music is rock. I was obsessed with this band called Orgy. They had a cover band called Blue Monday, a cover song that was a cover of the Blue Monday song. But anyway, yeah, I mean, my shuffle on my iTunes is all over the place, as well as electronic and everything. I tend to just talk about like Nicki Minaj and pop music, but yeah. But when Spotify released the artist that you listen to the most, that when they did it at the end of the year last year, it was Nicki Minaj. So it's not like, I adore Nicki Minaj, but I have a whole variety of things that I listen to.
I would have never pictured you as a gothic person ever.
There are photos right in there, and if it weren't for the fact that it would be dead air for a minute, I would find you something. Yeah.
I can't. So what? Did you frequent Hot Topic a lot?
Yeah.
Because I remember, at least for me, Hot Topic was a big thing.
Yeah, and but Hot Topic came up a little bit on the end of my time. Before then, there really wasn't a store dedicated to that aesthetic. So you'd have to kind of create it for yourself at Pacific Sunwear?
You're
So I would, combine the looks that I got from Pacific Sunwear, and then Hot Topic came up, yeah, like within the last year, two maybe of that whole time for me. And then I kind of I kind of just sort of became normal after that. And now I'm just this like walking J. Crew outlet, ad. So I was
double horn. Now, one thing that I do want to mention as well is, like you said, you kind of are up for anything, especially when you're on TV. I've seen you kind of become more theatrical when it came to like a Halloween event where you were covering a haunted house, which was a pretty good line. Like you ended up acting really well there.
Thank you. Still my favorite story. To this day, it's still my favorite story.
Then they had you yodeling. I think in one of your first days, they had you yodeling. And it wasn't like I've seen people who have been put on in moments notice like, hey, sing and dance and have it end miserably. I've seen it and it breaks my heart. And they put you on the spot, but you don't fail miserably. So I have to ask you, did you have some sort of training when it came to singing and acting, either in middle school, high school, or college?
I mean, well, thank you for thinking that I haven't failed miserably. I feel like I fail miserably all the time. Like I did this live shot the other day where I was in a bubble, and it was the story was fantastic. And the photos that I got from it were really great. But my live shot itself ended up I hated it. I mean, I watched it back and I just man, you just flunked that so hard. But as far as this singing and acting, I was a thespian when I was a kid, so I was always a terrible actor, but I loved performing, but I also recognized that I wasn't good at memorizing. I have a terrible memory. And I'm not good at being somebody else for a long period of time. I might be able to do it for like a live shot with the haunted house thing, but if I have to carry a character through for longer than that, then it just doesn't work. So I'm not a good actor, so I knew that I wouldn't go into acting. But I definitely did have a little bit of that training with, drama class. And I've always just been a little bit of a ham since I was a kid. So I think it just kind of plays into it. One thing that I wish that I could do is sing.
My song that I was trying to sing is a 70s song, but you have a better song to sing. Sorry.
Well, I want to sing it with you, okay?
Okay.
So
Okay.
here we go. 3, 2, 1. Ain't no mountain high enough, ain't no valley low enough, ain't no river wide enough.
I don't know the words.
Ain't no mountain high enough.
I can't sing well, but if I did have a voice, I'd probably be one of those people who'd be singing all the time, which is, they're a little annoying, but I would be one of those people.
And then what about the dancing? Because I've seen some clips of you dancing.
Wait, what dancing thing are you thinking of? Because I can't.
No, there are some clips of you dancing just randomly, like either in a studio, like for a story. I'm talking about for a story.
Yeah.
Where you're covering, and they have you dancing on multiple occasions. I saw a selfie video from years ago. I don't know if it was like a colleague of yours from in Tampa was filming it, and you both were like dancing along, and I'm like, okay.
Wait,
You're talking about the twerk video?
I think it was that one, yeah.
Okay, can I share this with the audience? We had this is so crazy. We had, I think it was carolers. We had like Christmas carolers, I think, on the show, and they're performing. This is happening live on TV. And so what we would do is we would introduce the performers. Then my co-host and I would. This is Kendall Kirkham. Love her so much. Then we would walk off the stage, then they would perform, and then we'd walk back on, thank them, and then close out the segment. So, we introduce them, they're singing what I believe is Christmas carols, and we walk off, and she and I were just always sassy, and we just started twerking in front of the Christmas carolers, and we're shooting video of each other. So inappropriate and so unprofessional, but that's just kind of me and Kendall when we get together. So is that video still on my Instagram? I think it might be in one of the moments.
Oh man,
I don't know. I'm not a good dancer either, but I'm spirited. I'm a spirited actor, dancer, and singer. Although I don't have like talent in any of them, but again, I like to have fun. I think that's really what it is. Like, I just like to have fun. I like to be silly. I like to put myself out there. So even if it's not good, I'll still do it.
now we're leading towards the tail end because I know, again, man, you're busy, and thank you so much for your time. First and foremost, I really do appreciate the time that you've given me.
Thank you for your time. I'm so flattered that you would ask me these questions and talk to me about it.
No, man, of course. And one thing that I have noticed, looking at your career, and I've seen some of the send-offs that you've had either in Tucson, in Tampa, and I see you now on Deco Drive. One of the constants that I've seen, and I'm very curious about this, is that you have an innate ability to kind of have chemistry with your co-host. And I wanted to ask you, how do you kind of force that type of chemistry? Because it's obviously needed, especially on the Deco Drive. But how do you kind of develop that chemistry? Is it just something that happens organically, or is that something that you can actually build upon with a co-host?
It can happen organically, and you know, it's the same way that you would have chemistry or not with the bank teller. It could be there, period, or it could totally not be there, and you just have to work with whatever you have. I've just been extremely lucky. I really feel like I've been extremely lucky. Um, in the Tucson job, my co-host and I there struggled with chemistry, but we were able to figure it out. You know, it took a little while, but we were able to figure it out. But outside of that, I mean, my co-host, I didn't have a co-host on the reality show, but on OK TV, my co-host was Julie Alexandria. Julie and I text each other to this day. I mean, like every other day. I still have a group chat with all of my people at OKTV where like every other day, we're still discussing the entertainment news. I mean, I love my people there. They're like a family. In Tampa, or at HuffPost, again, I didn't have co-hosts, but there were other hosts and I still love them. In Tampa, I was a kind of quasi news anchor there. I also did this sort of digital segment thing too, but kind of did a few things there. But my co-anchors there, I talk to all the time. I mean, Katie and I were, I think, talking on the phone yesterday. Carolina and I are always messaging each other. Just absolute chemistry from the get. I mean, from the get. Kendall and I she's ENFP. So Kendall and Katie, one of my co-anchors in Tampa was ENFP. Kendall, which was the talk show, also in Tampa. I moved from the news to the talk show. She's ENFP. She and I always had chemistry. We still we were messaging each other yesterday or this morning about the WAP challenge on Instagram. And in Miami, what's so wild is that my audition for Deco Drive was with Lynn. And for me, Lynn, and for everyone in South Florida, Lynn is an icon and a legend. And I know that you know what I'm saying. And so I was like intimidated. I was starstruck. Not that anybody has cared, but not really, nobody knows it. When I go in for the show on the days that I don't, fill an anchor and I do my one little thing at the green screen, I walk in the studio every day. I sit on this little red chair in front of a monitor, which is funny because they're actually doing the show right there, but I watch it on the TV right next to them because I'm such a fan of Deco Drive. To me, it's such an entertaining show to watch. So I sit there and I watch it and I study both of them. And this is a winning combination. And I think about it and I'm like, man, so few shows like this exist in the country. And the show has been such a success. We do well in the ratings. People identify with Lynn and Shireen. So I just want all of it to, rub off on me somehow, some way. But yeah, I study both of them big time because for me, if I am able to if I could just stay at Channel 7 and if viewers can, I know this sounds really terrible, but if viewers can just like me in the way that they like other talent, for me, that would just be such an honor.
Again, thank you so much for giving me the time. I remember the first time that I met you, I think was on your first day on the job.
No.
Yes, it was. Because you were running around crazy. I think you had locked your keys in the car that day because you were running around and they had sent you from the studio to cover Netflix's Raising Dion. And you came in like very last minute. You came in, you had like a jacket in your arm. You sat down. Nobody knew who you were at the time.
I remember that. Yeah.
Nobody knew who you were. Like, who's him? Like we didn't, because usually, at least for those that don't know, in the press junket circles, we kind of know everybody that's there. And then comes this brand new guy we've never seen before. And you're sitting down at the table. You're working. You're writing down stuff, and you're talking to everybody because you wanted to know a little bit about the show because you weren't able to watch it because obviously they're
Yeah, I'm the one junketeer that never gets to see the actual program, the movie or the whatever it is before we do the interview. So I have to invent it.
So I remember you running around constantly, and you told us, all right, that you're going to be taking over for Chris, and you're going to be on Deco. And then ever since then, every time I've seen you at the junkets, every time I've interacted with you, you've been so incredibly nice with me, giving me advice, giving me help. Thank you for the oil wipes. You, you have shown me the value of oil wipes at press junkets. So thank you for that.
I have some right over there.
Yeah. So no, but seriously, thank you so much, man. You've always been incredibly kind, and I wish you the absolute best, man.
You've always been you've been always such a calm, grounding presence in the chaotic environments that we typically are in, which is, I think, well, very much part of the reason why I've always been drawn to like sitting next to you or whatever in these little like hospitality rooms or whatever. You totally relaxed me. You're so kind. Everybody loves you in the environments, all the environments that we're in. And again, thank you so much for being interested enough to ask me any of these questions. One thing that I do love about you is I do come in, the way that you said it is, I was taking notes and stuff. I typically approach interviews very spontaneous. Like I will have a general idea of what I'm going in with, but I've noticed that you have these like at the very minimum, it seems like you have these very specific questions that you're asking. You've really thought this out. You've really done your homework. And I've always really respected that about you. I try, but sometimes I just kind of wing it. And
No, but actually, believe it or not, like I have to take advice from individuals like yourself and others at our press junkets who what they do and I have to follow that is follow the conversation. Not necessarily because like if you just show up with questions and you're just waiting to ask the next question, that's the worst thing you can do. So really following what you do and others do, which is making it a conversation. And again, like I always watch everybody's interviews, whether it's yours on Deco or it's on anybody else's outlets. I try to watch everybody's interviews to pick up like, because I always want to say who did it best. And I'm very honest with myself. I'm like, all right, Mauricio had the best one, or Alex had the best one, or Dave had the best one, or Miriam had the best one. And I can always pick, I'm like, all right, let me try to figure out what did they do that was successful. And it's usually always following the conversation and having, again, that chemistry with whoever you're talking to.
I think you might be ISFP, but we'll talk about that later.
All right, well, we're going to leave it on that note. I'm going to go ahead and take the Myers-Briggs test again and see if I was accurate or not.
Some stuff.
Well, again, Alex, man, thank you so much. Continue to do a great job and continue to be safe during this whole craziness, man.
You too. Thanks so much, man.